It felt good to put others first and ensure everyone else was happy. But what she said next shook me to my core. Recently on an episode of my podcast, someone asked if I had heard of the eldest daughter syndrome and what my thoughts were. Truth is, I hadn't heard of it. So I went down a rabbit hole reading all about it, and I want to take you along to show you what I learned. Eldest daughter syndrome, or EDS, is not an official mental health diagnosis.
I'm the oldest daughter. Of course I make sure everyone's good before I am.
It's a term coined to describe the unique pressures and responsibilities placed onto the oldest daughter in a family. And these pressures are usually things like being responsible for more domestic labor than their siblings. These could be things like cooking, cleaning the house, and doing laundry. Some eldest daughters even shared online that they would have to wake up their brothers and sisters for school and pack their lunches for them. No other child in the family is responsible for these things. It's not like it's just a chore list that every child has their task. This is like having the lion's share dumped onto one child, the oldest daughter in the house. We can also be held to a higher standard than our siblings, feeling like we have to do it all. The pressure to do well at school, sports, and other extracurricular activities. And then get home and take care of our family before we jump into our own homework. And if one of these things isn't done to the best of our ability, our parents can come down on us hard, saying that the other children look up to us, and we need to be a good role model. We can also feel like we're responsible for the emotional caretaking or expected to mediate conflict between other members of our family. When one of our siblings is upset, we could be expected to go to them, to offer support. If our brothers are fighting, we can be asked to step in, figure out what's going on with them, and help them resolve their issues. Or one or both of our parents can come to us with their issues and share about a disagreement or struggle that they're having. We can feel like the emotional well-being of our entire family rests on our shoulders. And it's up to us to make sure everyone is happy.
This one's for the eldest daughters. What do you guys think it's like to not constantly be aware of the emotions of every single person around you and make it your responsibility to always make sure that everyone is okay, no matter what energetic, emotional, or mental toll it takes on you? I imagine it's pretty nice.
And in some cases, we can even be treated like a friend of our parents instead of their child. They can confide in us about their issues with the other parent or struggles that they're having in their own life. They can tell us all about their financial worries, fights they're having with someone in their life, and even ask us to speak to their spouse, our mom or dad, for them.
Look at me when I talk to you. It has everything for you to do with you sitting there and telling me. It has everything.
Roll out.
The normal and healthy boundaries between parent and child don't exist here. And we are talked to and engaged with as if we are equals with our parents. I want to take a minute to thank today's sponsor, Delete Me. Did you know that your personal data and information are sold online by data brokers? Data brokers are corporations that collect huge amounts of personally identifiable information from a variety of sources like government public records and social media. They bundle up our data, analyze it, and then license it and sell it to other organizations and individuals who want it. And I know a lot of us may think, what does it matter if they want my data? Who cares about my shopping history or what I said online? But it can be dangerous. Having our data out there increases our risk of identity theft, being a victim of stalking, and even being bullied in our real lives for the thoughts or beliefs we shared online. Delete Me believes in keeping our personally identifiable information private. I choose Delete Me to remove my data, and I love that they send me privacy reports showing where my data has been found and removed, and what requests are still outstanding. It helps me feel more in control of my data, and I cannot recommend it enough. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/Katie and use promo code Katie at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/Katie. The eldest daughter can develop certain personality traits and mental health struggles.
I'm the eldest daughter. Of course I'm a chronic people pleaser. Count me in. I'm the eldest daughter. Of course I'm an overachiever who doesn't feel like I'm doing enough.
These traits and struggles can start happening while we are still in this role and follow us into adulthood. The 8 most common signs that you have eldest daughter syndrome are: number 1, you have an intense feeling of responsibility. And this isn't regular childhood responsibility that can actually be healthy, like being accountable to do your homework or clean up after yourself. This is adult responsibility that your parents should have taken care of. For example, we could feel responsible for making sure our siblings get their homework done, that their clothes are washed, and that both of our parents are doing okay. The responsibility never ends. And as we get older, we can continue in this role, feeling responsible for our friends and our romantic partners too. We can find ourselves in relationships with people who are the youngest siblings because they're used to other people taking care of them. So it's comfortable or familiar for both of us. We could even say that we feel most comfortable acting in a parent role in many of our relationships. And if someone was to try and take care of us, we wouldn't know how to accept it, and we might even push them away.
So who takes care of you?
I do.
Anybody else?
Which nicely connects to our second trait, that we are overachievers, type A, and very driven. Because we may have felt that we had to always be a good role model for our siblings, we could have felt like we have to show them what hard work looks like, or feel like we're paving the way for them. Not to mention that if our parents didn't give us the attention or care that we needed when we were growing up, but instead asked a lot of us, we could think that the only way to get love and support is to earn it. So we can spend much of our life working harder than ever with the hopes of finally getting recognition and attention. If someone gives us a compliment out of the blue, one that, let's say, we don't feel like we've really earned, we can struggle to accept it, try to brush it off, or minimize the effort that we put in. I even saw a couple of TikToks where women shared that they started saving money when they got their first jobs in case another sibling or parent needed help, feeling that they had to work hard to potentially support them. Trait number 3, we have a lot of anxiety or uncontrollable worry. Due to the fact that we were expected to always be thinking about other members in our family and taking care of them, we can constantly feel on edge, concerned about everyone's well-being, and not be able to relax, like ever. I saw a TikTok where this girl was joking about being the oldest daughter and wanting to watch them sleep to make sure that they were still breathing. And it shows us how inappropriate it is for a child to feel responsible for the health of another child. We aren't developmentally ready. It's honestly misplaced responsibility, and it robs us of our childhood because we're so busy worrying about everyone else. These feelings of anxiety and worry could also be caused by the extreme amount of pressure we feel to perform, to do everything, be everything to everyone, that we just worry we aren't doing enough, ever. Trait number 4, we struggle with people pleasing. Again, because we feel responsible or have been told we are responsible for everyone else in our family, we can find ourselves putting others first, always. This could also come from the fact that we're in charge of keeping the peace. If we are the ones that come to our siblings' or parents' aid, then we can feel like it's our job to make sure everyone is happy. Remember when I told you about that bomb that my therapist dropped on me a few years ago? If not, no worries, I'll retell it. So about 5 years ago, my therapist stopped me mid-sentence to ask if I thought people-pleasing was an admirable trait. And I had to be honest. I kind of did. It felt good to put others first and ensure everyone else was happy. But what she said next shook me to my core. She told me that people-pleasing wasn't really about anyone else. It was about me. And in fact, it is a form of manipulation. What? She had to be joking. But if you have ever been in therapy, you know therapists rarely joke, especially not in session. But she went on to explain that I was pleasing other people so that I could feel okay. Because when other people are upset, I can't relax. I don't like conflict. So I please everyone else to try to manipulate them into feeling good so that I can then relax. In essence, my people-pleasing behavior was my way of managing my anxiety. Which brings me back to the topic at hand. When we are the oldest daughter, we could have grown up worrying about everyone else. So much so that we can't relax until everyone is okay first. Therefore, we can struggle with people-pleasing behavior. And finally, this urge could come from our need for attention. Needing attention isn't a bad thing. It's something that we all need. It's a basic human need. But when it's not given to us, we can do whatever we can to get that need met. And that often includes putting others first, hoping that our parents will finally see us, how much work that we're doing, and offer us the love and support that we need. I'm going to get into the ways that we can heal in just a bit, so hang tight. The fifth sign is that we have a hard time placing and upholding boundaries. Now, this is definitely connected to the people-pleasing, that previous trait, but it deserves its own because this struggle comes from the fact that when we were growing up, we didn't get to have boundaries. The natural ones that should be in place, like boundaries between parent and child, boundaries between us and our siblings, weren't there or weren't respected. So it's like we grew up without any idea of what boundaries are. I will never forget this comment that I got on Instagram a while back, and if I could find it, I would have it posted here. But the person left a comment that they were so upset that I shared a post about boundaries and self-care. She went on to tell me that parading around like boundaries in families should exist was harmful, and that we have to put other people first. And I have to be honest, it was one of the saddest comments I've ever received because she was upset at me for speaking to something she clearly never got to have. And I felt bad for her. It's okay to have boundaries. In fact, they are what keeps our relationships happy and healthy. And they ensure that each member of the relationship feels good. Without them, we get resentful, burned out, or taken advantage of. And I actually have a boundaries workshop on my website, katiemorton.com, if you're looking for more help with this. And I just discounted a lot of my workshops too, so get it while it's hot. Sign number 6, we can feel resentful of our family. Because the pressure, responsibility, and household labor wasn't something we got to decide to do or not do, we can start to become angry with the people around us who benefit from our intense workload. When things feel forced upon us and we don't think we can get out of it, it's naturally upsetting. When we see our siblings having fun while we're doing the dishes or the laundry, we can become upset with them. When our parents come to us again with an issue they're having at work, we can be irritated and want to scream. We can feel like we're being treated so unfairly. It's just too much pressure. The burden of premature responsibility can lead to feelings of unfairness and an unmet need for a typical childhood. As we sacrifice our own needs for the sake of familial obligations, we can grow resentful of the imbalance in expectations and the lack of reciprocity in emotional support. The weight of adult responsibilities, coupled with the absence of age-appropriate guidance and nurturing, it can cause frustration and even bitterness.
Because nobody admits anything they've done! Living off a coffee from a pot none of you want to touch!
Our resentment can further intensify when we witness our peers enjoying, a more carefree and age-appropriate childhood. Over time, these emotions can strain relationships within our family as we grapple with the impact of our early caregiving role in our personal development and emotional well-being. So know that if you're feeling this way, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that things weren't fair. They weren't balanced, and we didn't, or still don't, feel like our wants and needs matter. And as a side note, I know that many of us still act overly responsible and do too much, even without someone telling us to. And that's because it's all we know. It's how we learn to feel valuable and what we think our role in life is. But know that you can make different choices. Let some things go. And fight to sit with the discomfort of doing things differently. But moving right along to number 7, we can struggle with feelings of guilt. And I thought this one moved nicely off of the last trait because when we feel resentful, we can often immediately feel guilty for even feeling that way. And one thing I will say is that guilt around the way that we feel about a particular situation is never warranted. What is warranted is exploration or being curious, not judgmental, about that feeling. Like, where did this feeling come from? Have I felt this way before? How often do I find myself experiencing this emotion? Is it coming from what I believe about myself? We don't have to judge ourselves for it and further compound the responsibility that we already feel at home. It's okay to feel resentful, angry, or even disappointed with other people. That doesn't mean that we're bad for thinking or feeling that way. But it's helpful to be curious about that experience and see what we can learn from it. It's also important to recognize that when we have been told for most of our lives that other people are more important and that it's up to us to take care of the family, we can inadvertently accept those stories as facts, which can mean that when we try to do something for ourselves or put ourselves first in one way or another, we feel guilty for it because it goes against that belief. Does that make sense? We can also experience guilt when we don't meet the expectations that are placed on us because we're often given tasks and roles that are reserved for adults. We can feel guilty when we fall short of what they need from us. And finally, we can feel guilty for wanting our own life. Maybe we want to go away to college or move to another city. We can feel guilty for even thinking of that, which is why many eldest daughters stay close to home, continuing to care for their siblings and parents. We can feel like there's no other option without feeling crippling guilt. It's complicated and heavy, and it's just further evidence that treating a child like an adult isn't right or healthy or something to take lightly. And finally, trait number 8, we can have difficulty in our adult relationships. Due to all of the traits we discussed, we can of course struggle to form healthy, happy relationships when we get older. And let me walk you through some of the ways having eldest daughter syndrome can show up for you in your relationships. First, you may be seen as the mother of your friend group. You always plan the activities, ensure everyone gets home safely, and never let loose. If you throw a party, you are so concerned that everyone else is having a good time, you forget to enjoy it yourself. We can also be the one our friends come to with their issues, but we don't have anyone to go to with ours. This can lead to us feeling disconnected, isolated, and alone, even if we have a lot of, friends, because those friends don't really know us and what we're going through. So we still feel alone with it all. And when it comes to romantic relationships, we usually find ourselves with someone who isn't the eldest child, and they enjoy being taken care of. They let us run things, make big decisions, and we do most of the household tasks like shopping for food or other items, cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, etc. We can struggle to express our needs and desires, which can hinder effective communication, leading to unmet expectations and potential relationship strain. Moreover, we can grapple with feelings of inadequacy and seek validation through excessive caregiving and asking for a lot of outside praise. Over time, we may grow resentful or upset at the weight of the relationship on us and possibly feel like we're just a kid again, being asked to do too much. They can offer to help, but we often don't know how to accept it, and it can feel uncomfortable or bad when we let other people do things for us, so we push them away, which can lead to us retreating or withdrawing from all people in order to protect ourselves from the same abusive situation. Now, I'm going to be honest. I first thought that the eldest daughter syndrome was really just another way of talking about being a parentified child. And I still believe that. But what I would love to see stats on or percentages of is the number of daughters versus sons that have been parentified. Because I would hypothesize that this happens to girls more than boys. And this could be because of gender dynamics and the cultural or familial expectations related to gender roles. Those things could definitely play a role in shaping the experiences of eldest daughters. Or it could even be because of modeled behavior from our own mothers. If for hundreds of years women have been in charge of much more domestic and emotional labor than men, it's likely that little girls looked up to their moms to show them what it looks like to be a wife, a mother, a friend. If they happen to take on too much or were themselves a parentified child, then we can just fall right in line, feeling like that's the role that we're supposed to take. And having that blueprint in place from such a young age can make it hard for us to see an alternative. So what do we do? Because having eldest daughter syndrome is exhausting and harmful. But there are things we can do. And the first step is what I call being a detective about it. And what I mean by that is in order for us to consider changing, we first have to understand our experience. Rewind this video and take note of the traits that affect you most. See if you can remember when you started acting in this way, or if you know someone else in your family who does those same things. And what is it about these traits that are so upsetting? Are there relationships that we're in that support these unwanted behaviors, or others that challenge these traits? Let's get to know our experience before we jump to making changes. That way we can ensure we are putting our effort toward the pieces that affect us most. Next, we'll need to set some personal goals. Now, I created a workshop recently about breaking patterns in our life, and a big focus was on goal setting and why it doesn't often work. I realized that when we set goals, we don't always make sure that they align with our values. And when they aren't, we struggle to stay motivated to keep working towards them. And you can purchase that workshop for just $10 about breaking the pattern on my website. But for today's topic, it's going to be important that we consider what brings us joy and is fulfilling, and work towards aligning our life and goals with those things. And if that's still unclear, know that when we feel fulfilled, that means that the goals we're working towards feel good. We get a sense of achievement, and it's authentic with who we believe we are. These goals could be things like make some time to do something we enjoy. Finally, schedule that yearly physical. That's what I honestly just did, to be honest. Or start that book or show that we've been wanting to check out. Make these goals small and achievable in a few days so that you stay motivated and positive about the process. Next, we're going to have to work on setting and upholding boundaries. Boundaries are woven into many of the traits and issues that we see in eldest daughter syndrome. So these are going to be very important. And I find the best way to start working on boundaries is to first remember boundaries are not requests. Sure, we can tell someone to stop treating us that way, but they have free will. And they can either stop the behavior or not. We can't control them. We can only control ourselves, which is why boundaries are what we will do. For example, if I don't want someone to talk to me so rudely anymore, I can for sure put in a request and ask them to stop talking to me that way. But then the boundary is me saying that if they keep doing it, we won't spend time with them anymore. And then I act accordingly. So take some time to consider what relationships in your life leave you feeling worn down or maybe resentful. Are there specific situations or parts of your life that leave you the most upset? Because let's focus on those and see if there's a boundary that maybe we need to place there. Like maybe we need to say no when we don't really have the time to help this person. Or possibly we need them to uphold their portion of the housekeeping. Whatever it is, let's take note of it. Bullet point out what we need or don't need from them. And then practice saying it out loud before trying to communicate it to them. And take your time with this. But remember, saying no to someone else is saying yes to yourself. Boundaries are difficult, and I have a workshop all about them as well on my website, katiemorton.com, if you're interested in learning more. Next, we'll need to focus our energy on building supportive relationships. Take a minute to take stock of your relationships, friendships, family, romantic partners, and notice which ones leave space for you to vent. Be supported. And even who may have offered to help you in the past, even if you said, no, I don't need it. Also consider which relationship seems to be based on you always giving. And I know this can be really hard to recognize at first, but just start paying attention. The last thing I want any of us to do is to feel rushed in this work. We're trying to change patterns of behavior that we have been engaging in for our entire lives. It's going to take more than 1 week or even 1 month to work this completely out. We have to do it slowly. See how we feel and learn to sit with the discomfort that comes with change. As you learn to speak up more and set some boundaries, quite a few of your relationships will shift and some will probably end. And this just shows you what relationships were founded on you continuing those unhelpful behaviors. We will need to grieve and possibly look into ways to meet new people. So take your time. And also, I found having a therapist, it can be really helpful in figuring out what relationships are helping versus hurting. And they can also help us vet new people that we meet. Finally, during this process, we are going to have to get to know ourselves. We need to take the time to explore our identity, who we are, and what we like and don't like. Since our childhood didn't allow for that, we have to make time to do it now. This means trying out new things. And my goal for you is to try one new thing every other week. This could be a new type of food, a kind of music, an activity, you name it. Put on that movie you aren't sure about. Order sushi and see what you think. Try listening to some new music or watch a sporting event. Don't be afraid to try things. I find it's easiest for us to do this alone because that way we aren't influenced by anyone else and we can be honest about whether or not we like something. So make some time to try something new. And I also find journaling to be helpful when we're trying to kind of sort out who we are. You can ask yourself questions while you do it, which I know can sound a bit crazy, but you'd be surprised what you already know about yourself and your experience. So give it a try. And some things that have helped me journal more are to write without caring if it's spelled correctly, if it's legible. Know that no one is going to read it, and you don't even have to read it back. Also, you don't have to write for more than 10 minutes. Just get some of it out and move on. I hope that helps because I've been trying to journal more and that's just been incredibly helpful. Now, I know I personally connected with a lot of the eldest daughter syndrome traits, and I'm curious if you did too. Or do you think that there are others that I should have mentioned? Let me know in those comments. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.